Okay, so good morning. I'm back again. Still completely irked in my spirit. Hold on. All right. So anyway, like I was saying, I'm still like mulling over the things that I've posted in the last couple of days, and um, I'm just irritated. I don't think it's probably not spiritual at all, but I'm just irritated, and I also wanted to make sure that I'm not just in my flesh and whatever, because that whole thing is it's just exhausting to try and figure out what's going on. So I'm just going to keep um, going on in my perspective of things, because it just is really hitting deep for me in terms of like my life and just the way that I have always seen things to be. And the main takeaway, I made like 6 videos in 2 days or something stupid. And the main takeaway is, from what I gathered, because I kind of rewatched a lot of that stuff, is just that um, the way that we approach things, like supernatural things, like it needs to just be, uh, we need to keep other believers in mind first. It's kind of like that scripture about where Paul says, if you have, should we eat meat sacrificed to idols? And even that whole, we can see that Paul is getting a lot of questions from a lot of people, and a lot of those things he is volleying them right back to the believers and saying, do whatever you think is sin, and do what your conscience is telling you to do. And he's putting the responsibility right back on him, which is, as we can see, the appropriate and good thing to do. But the only place where I see him sort of um, imposing a belief system on them is when it comes to the thing about meat being sacrificed to idols, and what's going to cause your brother to stumble. If you're okay with it, if it doesn't bother you but it bothers him, his example was, what I would personally do is I would not eat meat sacrificed to idols if I see that it's causing my brother to be uncomfortable. And I feel like somewhere in there is the same principle when it comes to this stuff about the supernatural. Um, we need to, and I'm trying to think of like the world, the secular equivalent of this, because there's other types of things in the world where socially we see that everyone is accepted. Um, and that tends to break down sometimes because they try to do that with things that can't be done with that. So you can't, at a certain point, the accept everyone does break down, and you end up having to discriminate against certain people, XYZ. Um, but the I think the principle should be similar when we're dealing with believers who are already in the fold and who love God. And the other thing about that too is that if we're dealing with someone who loves God and they feel that they are hearing from God, they have to follow that, and you have to respect that. They have to follow that. They cannot listen to you, and you shouldn't expect them to listen to you. So you're going to have to let them do the thing. Because either way, if you've got someone who is doing something, or if you don't know this person personally, but you see them speaking, in God's name, and uh, they're doing something that is unorthodox or doesn't seem to be, it's not familiar to you. Either they're following God or they're deceiving other people. Either way, you're not going to get through to that person. Like, especially when you have a precedent of most of humanity, or most people, shunning the correct thing. When you've got the example of when Jesus is on the earth, and the precedent that he set of basically like every respectable, the minority were the people that believed him, and the vast majority were the ones that shunned him. In the Old Testament, when they went and they spied out the land, and 10 of them had a good report, or 2 of them had a good report, and 10 of them had a bad report. And it was about being realistic about the circumstances. These people are giants. We can't defeat them. We're going to get clobbered. So that is the precedent. So anybody who loves God, who is reading their word, shouldn't be swayed by a crowd of people telling them, no, don't do something. It's just, you shouldn't even expect that in that scenario, they're doing what they should be doing. You're just going to have to let it play out. There's no point where God can't step in, and you shouldn't feel burdened by their decision. It's one thing to be a watcher on the wall and you haven't warned anybody, and then their blood is on your hands because you didn't warn them, or you didn't speak up or whatever. But if you spoke up and those people haven't made a decision because they don't have the information. And that's why you're responsible for that, because you had the information and didn't share it. But if we all are all having the same information, and we're all privy to the same information, which is what is part of the thing, this isn't a secret society. We're all Christians. We all have the same word, and we're all privy to the same information. And you've got people drawing conclusions that you wouldn't draw. It's not your responsibility to make sure that they get on the right path that you're on, which is the right one. So I'm really grieved by the amount, the controllingness. I feel like that has done way more damage. I have yet to see the damage of, I know that it's out there. I know that things can get weird and crazy. We've all heard the horror stories of, the barking church or whatever. But on the whole scheme of life, it's not like you had like a whole bunch of dignity to begin with. You're a sinner saved by grace. So to kind of discriminate between the different ways that people make a fool of themselves in this life is just, you need to understand that that's your own personal preference, and it has no bearing. That's where the being like a child and not having judgment thing, like, I just feel like people try too hard to control people, to get them to conform to something. And that's the type of damage that I'm always trying to avoid. Or, I'm not really, it's what gets me upset about. I'm thinking about what we're losing, the individuality and the diversity that we're losing when people are trying so hard to make sure that people stay in whatever lane. That's not even, you don't even know what all the lanes are. Like, you're just a human on the earth. And, this idea that if we just stick to the word, you won't be deceived. It's like, hello, have you been on the earth? Anything can, like, you don't think that the devil, like, let's visit the stick to the word deceptions that there are. Like, there's plenty of people sticking to the word and coming up with all types of stuff, because that there's no end to the depths of our imperfect nature. Like, we can mess up anything. So we need to stop acting like there's, yes, there's things that you can do that can reduce the likelihood of something, but we can't be treating people out here like uh they're doing the absolute one wrong, like the wrong thing that's very clear. It's like we're all doing something wrong, and we're all, trying to operate in the supernatural, trying to hear the voice of God, trying to walk by faith. Those types of things are humbling. It's not really something that you can ever really get your bearings with. You might get good and disciplined at being obedient, right when it happens, or having a story after doing it multiple times where you can sort of orient yourself with, okay, this is what's more likely, and am I hearing this or that, or is it, you might be able to learn and grow in it, but do you ever fully get your bearings? I'm pretty sure, like, once you do, God is taking you to a new level where you're back to being a child again. So it's very easy to sort of remain humble in that, unless God is giving you some huge mega gift, and it's just like, yeah, you can get lifted in pride or whatever. It's very easy to get lifted in pride thinking that, well, I know my word and I can just, and it's very simple. See, I can explain it to all of you. It's like, because it's there and it's tangible and it's, you went to college, and so you can get lifted in pride about your knowledge. So it's just much harder. I think for me, it commands a lot more respect that anyone is doing this unorthodox thing that is, um, or if you can combine the two, that's great too. People who have a good mixture of both. But just in general, I really hate the way that we treat it. There should be a an air of freedom around the subject of believers just kind of following God and experimenting. It's just like, no, there shouldn't be any experimentation because we have the word and it's clear. It's like, no, I don't. And then even if that was true, like, and the people just were, um, they just were determined to experiment. Like, you can't stop them, people. Like, and don't get mad about it. Like, just let go. Like, you don't have to control everybody. We don't have to control everybody. We don't have to be like the world in that, because that's a very human thing, where we want to gatekeep and make sure things are whatever and be elitist and all this stuff. And I don't know, there was something else that I was going to say about it, but like my brain is just kind of like shriveled up. Um, oh, yeah. And then the way that we treat the rapture date like the worst deception in the history of mankind. It's like, listen, I'm pretty sure, the worst deception, or, the worst trick that the devil is pulling is probably sexual immorality, if I had to guess. That's the absolute worst one because it's, like the Bible says, it's not a sin that's outside the body, it's inside the body. So it's just, and it wreaks havoc. It can be spread person to person. Like, it's not even like you have to, like, if you wanted to go be a Satanist, you had to go to a Satanist meeting and you had to sit everybody in 300 people in one room to get that and to get 300 people. Sexual immorality is like exponential. Like, so, um, so people trip off the rapture date. You have to wonder why that is. It's got to be an issue of just pride and vanity or something, because there's all these other sins. Addiction's pretty bad too. There's all these other, which sin, but it's a deception. It's something that can actually ruin your life. You thinking that the rapture is in October is not going to ruin your life. It's not going to ruin, or it's not, of all of the things to be worried about, that it's like people spend so much time warning people about it. And I was coming up with like an analogy of like what this is like. And I'm thinking about like, so it's like if you were going to an event, and you were required, you wanted to buy a new, have a new expensive dress to wear or whatever for this event, this red carpet thing or something. And your friend is like, oh, I'm super excited because I found this Chinese website, and they had this Valentino dress. It was an exact replica of the Valentino dress, but it was only like $20. And so it was like super cheap, and I'm so excited. Yay. And at best, I mean, you could be like, sis, I don't think that's going to work out for you. Like, like there, you might even give her the history of foreign Chinese manufacturing, whatever, as much as because she doesn't seem to be informed about it. But you know what? She is continuing to be excited about it, and she's like, "Yeah, my friend got one, and it looks great on her." Blah blah blah. At a certain point, you got to just be like, "Okay, well, good luck with that." Like, you wouldn't shame her on a podcast. You wouldn't be like, you wouldn't try to like concern troll her and like do a whole thing and pretend like you were concerned and like literally tell every single person that you ever run into about how stupid your friend is for falling for this scam. It's like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Yeah, she could be humiliated on the day. Yeah, she could not have anything to wear for the event. But you literally went around and maligned her, and you've got all this stuff roiling in your heart about your friend who's an idiot for not knowing that you can't get a designer dress for $20. Otherwise, every person in the world would do that. What the hell's wrong with you? Like, okay, yeah, no, yeah, you're right. It's kind of like silly, but sis, but what about, you might need to calm down a little bit. Like, why are you so, let her live and learn. Like, that's where she's at, okay? Like, you done took it so far, and you like, you're in your prayer closet crying about it. It's like, it's okay if you're really that concerned about her. Like, why don't you buy her a dress? Why don't you take one of yours? Because on the day she's going to be scrambling, and you know it. So pack yourself something, a backup for her. And don't mention it to her. Just when she calls you all like, oh my God, it's scary. And then another thing that people do, it would be like say you tell the friend like, okay, this is a scam, whatever. And they say, well, I've seen this person bought one, and this person bought one. And you go, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm sure it's a fluke. I'm sure one out of 150 of those dresses managed to have some kind of quality to them, and she happened to get one, but it's a gamble. No, you go straight into, no, that person is trying to deceive you. They're trying to whatever. It's like, there could be so many explanations for that. You don't have to go straight to, you're surrounded by vampires, everyone's trying to deceive you, because it doesn't even make sense anyways. It doesn't, like, you trying to tell a person who's super excited about a deal like that no, actually, the world is crap and everyone around you is like that's just a super paranoid fever dream in her paradigm, to tell her that everyone around you is just trying to deceive you into buying a horrible dress. It just seemed like that sounds like a lot of energy. Like I would be reticent to believe that myself in that person's shoes. Like, so a lot of times it's like things are like mixed up. Not everything is. The dress might come back and she might have the weird body type and it might end up working for her, or maybe the Lord's going to bless her and she's going to end up with a great dress, or maybe it is going to come back and it's going to be terrible and you'll be able to save the day. Maybe it never shows up at all. It never arrives and you'll be able to help save the day. Are you going to be like, see, I told you? Well, this is what you get. I hope you can show up in jeans. I hope you're happy with yourself next time you learn. It's like the it's like I can see how unnecessary all that. I can see how unnecessary your behavior is, and I can see how that person like doesn't need all the animosity. Like that's what it all looks like to me. It's like, okay, that might have been a hot mess, but you, ma'am, you're coming out looking real stinking. Like, how do you like? That's how this all looks to me. So, you know, you think it's about something that it's not even about. Like the whole point, it's like you and your friend are going to be on the red carpet. It's about whatever the function is and showing up and having a good time. And you have made it about, like, it's like, what's the overall gist of this? We're all Christians. We all love God. We all believe he died for our sins. And we all are saved by grace. And we all want to go to heaven. So why are you what is, like, the beef should be way down with people who have differing opinions or have had stranger experiences. And it's just, yeah, it's just annoying. It's just annoying. And, it's not like I can deal with a bunch of stuff anyways from people. So I shouldn't probably be one to talk. But I guess that's kind of what's annoying about it. Cause it's like, there's so many things that freak me out and that I would be terrified to deal with. But so it's just like, really? That's what you're freaking out about? Like, that's a walk in the park compared to all the nightmare scenarios that there are in life. So, yeah, hopefully that's all the last thing I'm going to say about it. I'm still pretty excited. And honestly, like, I was discouraged a little bit, but it was more like, I'm going to order food and eat. And then I was like, no, I'm fine. But like, um, what's great about this time period in particular, it's like, don't even think about letting up because there's going to be some other crazy news thing that you've heard. And you're like, okay, so this is going to happen soon, because it's like, oh my gosh, 18 forest fires and 12 derailments and 22 banks failed, and they're giving pills to little children to make their I don't know, genitalia appear outside of their body, and I don't know. It's just something else that's like, oh, okay, so this is still in the works. Like, let's keep going because yeah, it's still falling apart. It's like, oh, someone has found a map. Europe is making a makeshift map of the U.S. and building tunnels and doing whatever. What do you all the drills, like the drills before the it's not called a drill. What do they call it? I forget. Um, what do they call it? Now I'm like trying to get whatever. Anyways, So yeah, all that's it's the world is still hurtling towards something. It's 9.5 earthquake in this place, that place, the other place. So the only thing that's really missing is like the signs in the sky. And once we start seeing the sky doing peculiar stuff, like I don't think anyone is going to be concentrating on a date at that point. So all right, well, I'm done talking about this, hopefully, for everyone's sake, and I will see you again soon.